So in my previous video, we saw about the DeepSeek R1 paper. In this video, let's directly compare DeepSeek R1 with OpenAI's O1. More specifically, let's dive into mathematical problem solving. Let's look into 3 problems from the Math 500 dataset and find out which of the 2 models do best in those. And then let's move on to math reasoning, and we'll do some logical reasoning, and eventually we'll just wrap up with some trick questions. And we'll conclude in the end. If we look at the figure in the paper, we can see that they have shown that DeepSeek does better than OpenAI. So this is DeepSeek and this is OpenAI, and this is in the math problem. So let's look into the Math 500 dataset, pick up a sample and test both the models to find out how DeepSeek does. So for that, I went into Hugging Face, and this is the Math 500 dataset. And under that, I filtered the test split, and under that, I randomly picked some geometry problems and also some algebra problems. We're going to test both the models with these samples to find out how well they do with the math problem. So let's start with ChatGPT. I've got this algebra problem, which is that, we got some value and we've got this equation and we need to ask it to find out the value of x. So let's see how it does. So it's started with the equation, and it's going on to use the identity which holds true, and then it's checking the validity and it's verifying the solution, and it confirms that the answer is 46. So let's try out the same problem with DeepSeek and find out how it goes. I'm going to disable R1 to make things simple just to begin with, and I'm going to ask the same question. It is taking much longer than OpenAI. All right, I have this trigonometry problem to solve, and it goes on looking for patterns or identities. So it doesn't give the outputs in step-by-step manner. It just walks us through its thought process, but the reasoning is much more elaborate and the explanation is much more elaborate. It's still going on, and in conclusion, we have 46. So both the models have got the right answer, which is 46. Let's now move on to some geometry problem. For the geometry problem, I've chosen this one, which is to find the area of the triangle. And I'm going to ask DeepSeek first to find out how it goes. It's still thinking. So while it keeps thinking, let's ask the same question to ChatGPT and find out how it goes. I'm asking the same question to find the area of the triangle. It gives the output in step-by-step manner. So step 1 is to compute the area of ABC. And the sides of triangle ABC are given us AB, AC, BC, and it goes to step 2, which is to compute CD, which is the height from C to AB. And then it gives the final answer 480 by 17, which is wrong actually. So the right answer is 3840 divided by 289. Meanwhile, DeepSeek says that the server is busy. So I'm going to try it out one more time, asking the same question to find out how it goes. It once again says the server is busy. So I'm going to try after some time. So this time it seems to be working fine. And it goes about saying that in triangle ABC, the lengths are AB, AC, BC. And then it comes with the sketch of the triangle as step 1, and step 2, checking if the triangle ABC is right angled, finding the distance and finding the coordinates of point D. It's simplifying the approach now. Step 7, use coordinates efficiently. Simplify the fraction. Oh, it got the right answer actually. So let's see if 3840 by 289 can be simplified. It's first checking, but actually this is the right answer, 2840 by 289. Final answer, the area of triangle is 2840 by 289. So it got the right answer, which the OpenAI model gave the wrong answer for. So that's impressive. So I've chosen one more geometry problem to ask both the models. So the question is, in the circle with center Q, radii AQ and BQ form a right angle. The 2 smaller regions are tangent semicircles as shown, but I'm not showing any figure here. The radius of the circle with center Q is 14 inches. What is the radius of the smaller semicircle? Express your answer as a common fraction. So let's find out how it goes. So it's trying to understand the problem. While this is running, I'm also going to ask the same question to DeepSeek. It takes a while. It's a little longer than OpenAI, but it's still running. Let's find out what it comes up with. Meanwhile, OpenAI has come up with these steps: understanding the problem, relationship between the semicircles, solving for R, and it's still solving. While this is solving, let's find out what DeepSeek is doing. It's still thinking. It's not doing anything at the moment. I won't be surprised if it gives a server busy error, but I will try it out again if it gives that error. So it came up with the right answer. So the OpenAI model came up with the right answer, which is 14 by 3. So while I ask the same question to DeepSeek, it goes on like this. So it's understanding the problem, visualizing the problem, defining variables, and it comes up with analyzing the geometry, locating the centers of the semicircles, solving for R. Let's solve for R, factor out R, now solve for R. To rationalize the denominator, multiply the numerator and denominator by the conjugate, re-evaluating the approach. Maybe there's a simpler way to relate R and R. So let's think about the positions again, and it's trying to come up with a different approach using coordinate geometry, solving the equation again. Again, it's looking for alternatives. Alternatively, perhaps we can find a better representation, and it goes on and on. Double checking the approach. So it's double checking the approach it took before. It's slowed down actually. It's time to give the answer. As we can see here, with ChatGPT, it just came up with simple steps and eventually came up with the right answer, which is 14/3. But with DeepSeek, we are still waiting for an answer. Let's see how it goes now. It's still calculating it. It still hasn't finished solving it. It says alternatively, perhaps the problem expects the answer, and still goes on and on. So finally, it has come up with the final answer after going through so many alternatives. We can see alternatively, and again, it says alternatively, perhaps the problem expects an approximation. Alternatively, perhaps the centers of the smaller semicircle lie on the angle bisector. Alternative approach. So doing all of that, it's come up with the answer, which is 14 times square root of 2 minus 1, which is actually wrong, unfortunately. So the answer is 14 divided by 3, and OpenAI seamlessly got the answer right in a few seconds. So let's ask one more question to wrap things up. I'm asking, let's stick with geometry and let's ask this question. We are given G and H, and they denote the centroid and orthocenter of triangle ABC respectively. Let F be the midpoint of GH. Express AF squared plus BF squared plus CF squared in terms of the side lengths A, B, and C, and circumradius R of the triangle ABC. The answer is just R squared. So let's find out how OpenAI deals with this. It's again going step by step. It prints step 1, defining points and key results. So the last time I asked this question, it got it wrong. So let's find out how it goes this time. Simplifying the expression. So conclusion, thus we obtain AF squared plus BF squared plus CF squared is equal to 6R squared minus blah blah blah, which is actually a wrong answer. It got a similar answer last time, which was actually wrong. So let's move on to DeepSeek and find out how it addresses this problem. So now I've given the actual math problem to solve, and let's see what it comes up with. It generally gives a lot of reasoning when we enable DeepSeek R1, which I've done. So we can expect a lot of text here, but definitely it keeps saying alternatively, since O is origin. So it once again got the answer right for this one. Basically, we can see that it says it's 3R squared, but it goes on saying that, however, the problem wants the answer in terms of the side lengths A, B, C, and R. So we need to express 3R squared in terms of A, B, C, and it keeps going on and on. It need not, because the answer is 3R squared. But again, wait, maybe not alternatively in the context of vectors. It went through a different approach and eventually come up with 3R squared. Therefore, the formula holds here as well. But then it got 3R squared. But in case of OpenAI, we can see that it didn't quite get to 3R squared. It's giving 6R squared minus A squared plus B squared plus C squared by 3. So I definitely have to give it up to DeepSeek here. It's done a better job in this one, even though it keeps still reasoning and it's throwing a bunch of text at us. So let's move on to some math reasoning and ask this question. A small number of cards has been lost from a full pack of 52. When I deal those to 4 people, I have 3 left over. If I deal to 3 people, I have 2 left over. And if I deal them to 5 people, I again have 2 left over. How many cards were there? I'm going to ask this first to ChatGPT, and the answer is 47. So let's find out how it reasons and comes up with this answer. To solve the problem, let's break it down step by step. Let n represent the number of cards remaining in the pack. We know that when n is divided by 4, there are 3 left over, and then it goes on doing the same for the other 2 scenarios. And step 1 is to solve the congruences, and step 2 is to solve for n, and then it moves on to step 3, find n within the range of standard deck. The total number of cards n must be less than 52. Since some cards were lost, the Then solving, it comes up with the answer. The number of cards remaining is 47. So it got the right answer there. We're going to ask the same question to DeepSeek now. So here I have it. I'm going to run it without enabling the deep thinking mode. I'm just going to ask the same question and find out how it goes. Thinking, all right, let me try to figure out this problem. So we have a full pack of 52 cards, but some cards have been lost. We need to find out how many cards are left. It's just repeating the problem. When dealing with 4, there are 3 left. When dealing with 3 people, there are 2 left. When dealing with 5, there are 2 left. That's all fine. Let me recall the Chinese reminder theorem. So OpenAI never did that, but here it's printing. Let me recall Chinese reminder theorem, which is useful for solving systems of congruences. Now, among these numbers, which are congruent to 2 mod 3, let's check each, blah, blah, blah. So once again, we have alternative kicking in. Alternatively, maybe I can approach this using equations. Then it's solving using equations. So the number of cards is 47. The only number less than 52 that satisfies all 3 congruences is 47. So it's verifying it, and then it's again saying the number of cards is 47. So that matches the answer from OpenAI. So there's a tie between the two in this one. Let's start with some reasoning questions. I'm asking, Jane went to visit Jill. Jill is Jane's only husband's mother-in-law's only husband's only daughter's only daughter. What relation is Jill to Jane? So let's ask ChatGPT first, and we can see that it started reasoning. Let's carefully analyze the given scenario step by step, and it comes up with this reasoning, and it says Jill is Jane's daughter. Now let's ask the same question to DeepSeek and see how it goes. It says thinking, okay, so I need to figure out how Jill is related to Jane based on the description given. That's fine. Let me break it down step by step, and it goes on and on. Next, we need to look at John's mother-in-law. Okay, fair enough. Moving on, fair enough. Let me trace it. So it has come up with the answer here. Therefore, Jill is Jane's daughter. That's the answer it has come up with. But then it continues on saying that alternative approach, let's map out relationship using family tree. It goes on, and then again it says alternatively, could mother-in-law here refer to John's own mother, and again it goes on. Again it says alternatively, maybe there's a different path, and then it goes on to reason in a different way. Eventually it comes up with Jill is Jane's daughter. So, and then gives a breakdown and eventually says that the answer is Jill is Jane's daughter, and it matches the answer which we got from ChatGPT. But the good thing with this is that this is quite concise and we could quickly read, and this level of reasoning is sufficient for a simple problem. But with DeepSeek, we can see that there's a huge answer before it actually gave us the right answer, but both the answers are the same. Let's ask a different verbal reasoning question, and this time ask which of these words is least like the others. The difference has nothing to do with vowels, consonants, or syllables, more, pairs, H's, and zipper. We have asked ChatGPT a few times this question, so it should be bang on, but let's try it out again. It comes up with these bullet points, which is that more refers to increase in quantity, pair refers to group of 2 or plural noun, H's refers to people who etch, design, or inscribe, zipper refers to fastening device or a singular noun tangible, and eventually it comes up with more is the worst, least like the others. Now this time it got it wrong actually. So last time I tested, it said zipper is the right answer. So, and the reason it says is that more is the only word that is an abstract concept, while the other 3, pass, etches, and zipper refers to tangible physical entries. But the right answer is zipper. So let's move on to DeepSeek and find out how it goes. It's thinking, that's great. So I need to figure out which word is least like the others, and it goes on. First, let's list them out. So it's listing it out. The question is about which one is the odd one out, and the difference isn't related to vowels, consonants, or syllables. So maybe it's something else like meaning, spelling patterns, or some hidden features. So it goes on, counts the number of letters, and then it goes on. Now it's telling what about the meaning. Then it shows the meaning for each of those. Not sure if the meaning relates here. maybe it's about parts of speech, then it moves on to parts of speech, and then it goes to another angle and says maybe looking at the letters themselves. Since vowels consonants are excluded, perhaps letter patterns, for example palindromes or repeated letters, which is great. Then it goes on reasoning this way. Then it says alternatively maybe the position of the repeated letters, and it thinks in an alternative way. Again, it says alternatively think about the words in terms of the endings or beginnings, and then it says this ends with E, pairs ends with S, H's ends with S, R ends, zipper ends with R. So pairs and H's end with S, more and zippers end with E and R. It goes on and on. Basically, it's quite a lengthy reasoning, and I'm waiting for it to complete still. It again says, wait, going back to repeated letters, HS has repeated E, zipper has consecutive P's, so zipper is the only one with consecutive repeated letters. It still keeps reasoning. It's still throwing quite a few text at us. I'm just looking for one word out of the list that I have given, so I'm still waiting. I'm just looking for one word, by the way. Wait. Another approach. So one thing this model is certainly good at is saying wait and then thinking alternatively. You can see that there's alternatively again. Again, we can say alternatively if we consider that 3 words can be verbs. More is not a verb. Another thought, and it's still going on and on. Alternatively, another angle. Come on, give me just one word, please. Finally, it says zipper. The word least like the others is zipper. That's quite a thought through reasoning. We can see where it started, and we can see the length of reasoning as we scroll through. That's quite a lot of reasoning. It's literally thrown all the text at us, and the reason it says is zipper is the only word with consecutive double letters with double P, or no repeated letters at all. The distinction here is based on the presence of adjacent repeating characters, which is unrelated to vowels, consonants, or syllables. Thank you. Like I said before, I'm asking the same question. This time I'm just disabling the deep think so that we don't get a bunch of text. Now let's find out how it goes. Let's tackle step by step. The goal is to determine which word among the 4 is least like the others. Then it says step 1, understanding the words. Step 2, analyzing characteristics. So it's kind of gone the bullet points way. So it says parts of speech, number of letters, meaning and usage, deeper linguistic features, considering semantic fields, conclusion. So it comes up with more. Based on the analysis, more is the word that is least like the others. And the reason it says is it differs in part of speech, abstractness, and linguistic feature, making it the outlier in this group. At least it's not throwing a bunch of text for the reasoning. So for simple problems like these, we need to kind of disable the thinking, but then the answer that we are getting is not quite convincing. Let's wrap up with a couple of tricky questions. So I'm asking, before Mount Everest was discovered, what was the highest mountain in the world? So obviously it's Mount Everest. Mount Everest, it was still the highest mountain even before it was discovered. We just didn't know it yet. So that's a great answer. And that comes from OpenAI. And also let's ask one more question. This is another tricky question, which is that which English word is always spelled incorrectly? And the word incorrectly is always spelled incorrectly, and it gives a smiley. It's a classic riddle that plays on the literal meaning of the question. That's great. So let's see how DeepSeek deals with this kind of silly questions. So let's ask, before Mount Everest was discovered, what was the highest mountain in the world? Before Mount Everest was discovered, the highest mountain in the world was still Mount Everest. The discovery of Mount Everest by the Western world in the 19th century did not change the fact that it was the tallest mountain on Earth. Yeah, it could not be tricked that easily, and it does a pretty good job, so that's fair enough. I'm curious what it will do if we just activate Deep Think, and let's ask the same question just to compare how it goes. Okay, so the question is, so it repeats the question every time when Deep Think is enabled. Then it says, first, I know that Mount Everest is currently recognized as the highest mountain, blah, blah, blah. Then wait. And it says, where was Mount Everest actually discovered? And so the question is, again, it goes alternatively. That's the start of alternatively. Then that's the start of another angle. It's more like lateral thinking. So the moment Deep Think is enabled, it thinks in all directions before it actually comes up with an answer. Anyway, it got that right. So I'm going to move on to the next question. So it started responding now for this question, which English word is always spelled incorrectly? Okay, the user asked, and then it repeats the question. Wait, the question says always spelled incorrectly. Here it says, oh, maybe the word incorrect itself. So the answer, eventually it says, the question tricks you by asking for a word that is always spelled incorrectly. If you take the word incorrectly literally, it would mean the word itself is spelled wrong. However, incorrectly is correctly is spelled correctly when written as incorrectly. So the paradox makes it a classic play on words. So the answer to the riddle is incorrectly. Okay. So let's move on to some visual reasoning. I downloaded this animation from the internet. It's a quick animation about k-means. We've got 3 centers, cluster centers here. We've got some data points and we are clustering them, and we can see that they're all grouped into 3 clusters. So let's see how the models reason about this. So I've attached the same animation to OpenAI. I'm going to ask what's going on in this animation reason from a machine learning perspective. Let's see the reason that it comes up with. From machine learning perspective, the animation appears to represent a clustering algorithm, likely the k-means clustering or a similar method in action. Here's a breakdown of what's happening, and it says data points, cluster centroids, centroid movement, assignment of data points, final convergence, and conclusion is that this animation visually demonstrates the iterative process of clustering, where centroids are dynamically updated until they settle into stable positions that best represent the structure of the data. The approach shown is most commonly associated with k-means clustering. Now that's more than enough to reason about that, and that's quite bang on. With DeepSeek, when we try to upload something, it clearly says that it's for text extraction only. We cannot expect much reasoning in terms of images because it clearly says that it's only going to extract text. I'm still going to upload the same animation and find out how it goes. So here I have uploaded the same animation and I've asked the question, what's going on in this animation reason from a machine learning perspective. It just says, okay, let me try to figure out what's going on in this animation from machine learning perspective, and it goes on and on. Looking at the content, there are rows of X separated by spaces. Let me pass it step by step, and it goes on and on. First part, line 1, XXX, line 2, XXX. So I read through the whole thing. It comes up with alternatives saying that in alternatively considering recurrent neural networks, and another thought, the grids could represent layers in a neural network, or maybe it's an autoencoder. It's the input in the first grid, where the input is the first grid, the middle with the dash is the encoder representation, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, 5. Eventually, again, it says alternatively, the animation could be showing a sequence of operations in a transformer model. It's all fine, but it never mentions about k-means anywhere. The animation likely depicts a neural network regularization technique. Great. Initial state, first 2 frames, dropout introduced, subsequent frames, key ML concepts illustrated, regularization, no, stochastic training versus deterministic inference, no, redundancy and robustness. Okay, so clearly we cannot expect much from the images because they have mentioned that it can only do OCR. I'm just going to leave the visual reasoning part here. So to conclude, we can say that, when it comes to mathematical problem solving, definitely R1 is now leading, and as they say in their results, R1 is marginally better than O1. But when it comes to logical reasoning, I think they both are on par. And when it comes to mathematical reasoning as well, they both still are on par. But with visual reasoning, R1 is not yet ready with visual reasoning, and it did really a bad job. Plus, on the app, they have explicitly mentioned that it's only ready for OCR and it's not yet ready for proper visual reasoning. So in this case, definitely we'll have to lean towards O1. And I was really not able to do the coding test on the R1 because of the server issues, because it was telling that the server is overloaded for too many times. So I had to leave it for another time. So let me know, guys, if you really want some coding tests to be done on R1, and I will go ahead and do some coding test and get back to you guys, but with another video. But otherwise, we are wrapping up the comparison of R1 with O1 in this video, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, take care.